I know how you can convert buyers, and most agents don't know they're losing out on that deal in the first 10 minutes. You can have 100 buyer leads and still close nothing if one step of your system is broken. And usually it's happening before the appointment is even booked. One missed call, one weak script, one bad handoff, and your entire pipeline falls apart. But once you understand the four checkpoints each buyer must pass: contact, appointment, showing, and offer, you'll immediately know exactly where your conversion is breaking and how to fix it. In this full episode, I break down the exact frameworks top agents use to convert buyers on a repeat schedule. Full episode drops soon. Subscribe so you don't miss the full playbook. Welcome back to a Refined Mindset. Today, we're going to go over the framework to help you diagnose between any buyer lead conversions or any funnels you may have, sales funnels, sales pipelines. This is one of the biggest reasons why agents don't convert buyer leads. Let's get into it. So, let's break this down into four parts. The first part, lead capture to lead contact. So, let's think about it like this: a buyer lead comes in. There's two questions you want to ask yourself. First question is, am I saying anything? What do I mean by that? When the lead comes in, am I actually following up? Am I doing the hot fries mentality? Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Think of your favorite fast food or any place that sells fries. Naturally, the fries are best when they're hot, fresh out of the fryer or whatever, air fryer, whatever it is, they're going to taste the best. Same thing with leads. Once a lead comes in, the sooner you get to it, the hotter they are, the better they're going to be. The other part of that is, am I saying it enough? And what do I mean by that? Am I calling them or texting them or emailing them just one time? Is that enough for a conversion to reach out to the lead? So if the answer is no, you got to first think, am I actually reaching out? And two, am I reaching out enough to them? Do I have enough attempts to be able to say I've exhausted every option? Do I have a follow up plan, right, for an uncontacted lead? For example, a lead comes in Monday. Do I have a 7-day plan that involves leveraging technology, leveraging time blocking that's best able to contact them? Do I have an afternoon block? Do I have a morning block? Do I have different types of scripts or systems that help me say I can exhaust that option and say I did try to contact them? There is nobody that's there, or they don't have a goal and they're not real sometimes, right? So think about it like that. If I have 10 leads that come in, let's say from social media, we want to get to a 30 to 50% conversion ratio. If my conversion ratio is less than that, think about those two questions. Am I saying anything? Am I saying it enough? That's going to be able to help dictate, is this a conversion ratio or is this a lead source issue? Part two, appointment set to appointment attended, or also a buyer that's connected with the lender, lender connection. Let's talk about what this means, right? People don't generally show up for no reason, they have to see a value. So if you're setting an appointment and they're not showing up, think about it in these ways. It's either these questions: am I saying the right things or am I saying it enough? A lot of times we don't pre-qualify a lead well enough to know, are they really willing, are they mentally ready, are they able to move to the next step? So that comes into that plays along the line of, am I saying the right things? Let's say you're able to say that, you pre-qualify them, you can check the willing, ready, and able box. Now, value to close. Why should someone sit down with me? How do I articulate the value that I can present to them? Am I showing them enough value for them to move to the next step? And that's to sit down with me, either Google me, in person, what have you. That's called a value close. So if that's not working, look at that conversion ratio, meaning looking at that conversion ratio, think about it. Am I saying the right things? Let's say you're able to lock in an appointment, either Google Meet or in person, and they don't show up. Then we have to say, am I saying the right thing? Or actually, does it go back to, did I say it enough? So you want to talk about the process I have between the time I set that appointment to the time the appointment is there, the day that it's the appointment, have I set up enough touches for them to remind themselves of the value of why we should sit down? And also, am I still top of mind? So whenever we have a situation where our appointment set, our appointment appointment went on to appointment set is not a high conversion ratio, again, at that point, you're probably at like a 50% or so. If we're not meeting that metric, we have to think, am I saying the right things or am I saying it enough? Am I doing enough touches prior to the appointment? Also, with part two is introduction to the lender and them connecting. If we're not seeing the ratio of probably 70% at that point, maybe a little bit higher. Remember, these are transactional leads, right? These are our first touches. We're trying to build rapport. But if we don't have a 50 to 70% ratio from the moment after I sit down with a client and they're touching base with the lender, we got to ask ourselves, am I saying the right things, right? Because if I don't present the value of why you should touch base with the lender to get to reach your goals, they may not understand. Sometimes it's I'm not saying it enough, right? I'm not saying it enough for them to remind them or set up an introduction email and let the lender follow up or set up an introduction text. So you have to think about it. If my conversion ratio is lower when it comes to appointment set to appointment went on or introduction to the lender to a lender connection, it's probably those two things. Am I saying it enough or am I saying the right things? So now we're on part three. This is after pre-approval process to now going on showings. Here's the biggest part of that. Let's say I'm putting them with the lender, they're connecting, but for some reason they're not pre-approving. Two major questions come to mind. One, am I saying the right things? And what do I mean by that? Depending on your area, it could be very expensive. And there's a formula called price size location that we use, and I got it from my coach, that we use a lot. And if we don't set the right expectation that, hey, you may not be able to buy this house in this location based on this price, and they don't understand that, a lot of times they're not realistic when it comes to talking to the lender. So that's the first thing. Am I saying the right things? The other, it is a possibility that maybe you're not talking to the right people. And what do I mean by that? There are some people that are really meant to set up a game plan a lot longer than others. Maybe this person is not really ready to talk with the lender just yet. Maybe they still need more time. Maybe I need to be talking to people that aligns with my mission and unique abilities. Maybe if I want to do luxury, I should be focusing on luxury. So you ask yourself, if someone is with the lender and they're not really moving forward, it's probably two things. Either I'm not saying the right thing and setting the expectation, or I'm possibly not talking to the right people that aligns with my goals. Now, let's say we move past that, and this is still part three. We move past that and now we're on the part of showing property. And for some reason, I'm showing a lot of property, but I'm not making offers. Okay. Well, naturally, our team, we shoot for about 20 to 25 homes being shown in total. That's about 5 to 7 each trip. If you're past that point, or if there's no motivation to move forward even prior to that, it's probably, I know for sure, you're not saying the right things. You're not setting the proper expectation. And it also could be you're not saying the right things, as well as, in addition to, you're not saying it enough. You're not telling them and repeating the expectation, the goals of each showing, right? When we're showing property, the goal is based on the properties they pick is to see which one they can see themselves living in. So if we should be at a conversion ratio about 70% higher, probably around 90% of homes being shown, clients being, we call them show ready, so making offers. If you set the proper expectation in part two, in terms of price size location, if you set the expectation once they're pre-approved, ready to go, you should be at probably a more of a 90%. Let's give or take 70 to 90% of homes, of clients seeing homes to offers being made. If you're not at that conversion ratio, you're either not saying the right things or you're not saying it enough. Or let's say maybe you're not saying anything, right? Part 4, the last part, one of my favorites. We're pending, but we're not closing. Couple of reasons why. Let me give you the biggest one that I've seen, usually in a home inspection, right? For some reason, we're not getting past a home inspection. Usually, if I would say about 80 to 90% of deals close, probably the biggest bulk of that percentage, that the reason why they don't close is during a home inspection. Obviously, there's things that we cannot control. So let's talk about that. If for some reason I'm noticing that I don't have that 80 to 90% of pending buyers or closing, it's probably I'm not saying the right things. Let me give you an example. At a home inspection, I'm not setting the right expectation of what is the goal of a home inspection. When you have a client say, "Oh, let's see what things are wrong so we can get out of the contract or get money," we're not setting the right expectation. We need to be able to let them know what is the goal and what things to look for. There's always going to be something wrong, and it doesn't matter if an inspector's checking now, doesn't mean that problem won't happen 2 days after closing. So you're either not saying the right things, meaning setting the proper expectation at a home inspection. Even in an appraisal, you may not be setting the right expectation of saying the right things when it comes to what is the point of a appraisal, right? If there's a termite, septic well, anything else, those can go into, am I saying the right things? I'll give you another thing, another part, which is a question you need to ask. Am I saying it enough? Do I always let the client know what are the next steps and what is the goal of that, right? So one, we want to say we're saying the right, we want to see if we're saying the right things. And two, am I saying it enough? Three, and this could be controversial, am I speaking to the right people? And I don't mean really necessarily clients, but do I have good partners? Do I have a good home inspector that kind of explains things in a really down to earth, understanding way and goes over the importance, right? Is my lending partner a great lending partner that has great communication? Do they have great systems and models? Is my title partner, and of course, legally, we know clients have the right to choose the different vendors, right? But the ones that I recommend, are they the ones that are going to set the right expectation and do their job, right? Is the lender going to do their job? Their processor is going to do their job? Is the title rep going to do their job? Is the home inspector going to do their job? So sometimes it is, am I talking to the right people? Now, if you're looking at that, you should be at about an 80 to 90% conversion ratio if you exhausted that option, meaning you exhausted that option of saying I am saying the right things. I'm saying enough, right? Or, and I guess I should say, I'm actually speaking to the right people, right? Those are going to be one of the things that's going to help you see when you exhaust that option, help you see, well, what are the challenges I have and why is it not closing? So, with these four big takeaways, you kind of want to self reflect every part of the process, right? We have four parts and four questions that you can use to see if this makes the most sense for you in the sense of I'm doing it, or maybe I'm not doing it enough, maybe I'm not doing anything, or I'm not talking to the right people. So, look back at your process, keep track of your numbers. From every part of that, the parts we talked about, look at those conversion ratios. You can use, the internet source for the conversion ratios in your area. A lot of times, what works for one agent may not work for the other. So, if you want any help, any scripts, any type of coaching, anything that we can help with to kind of fine tune those systems and models, those four parts and those four questions, please send us a DM, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Let's get it.